Hi everybody, my name is Arthur and welcome to another PixelPAD tutorial. We are coding our Fruit Slashers game, and in the last video we added so the fruits are giving us different scores, right? And we also add a background to our game. So in today's video, what I want to do first is I want to remove this score from the console window. I don't want to keep showing it down here. I actually want to show it up here on our game screen. So first, let me stop my game here. I'm gonna go inside the slicer, loop tab, and I'm gonna remove this print line from there. So we're not gonna print our score anymore after we slice the fruit. So here on the slicer loop tab, we had this print line, right? Here on the get collision code, I just removed that from here because we're not gonna print our score anymore. That doesn't mean that we are not getting score. I haven't removed the line that we increase the score, right? We're just not printing the score. So we're not showing the score. But what I'll do is I will create a text so we can show the score right here in the middle of our screen. All right. So let me go here to my game window, to my game class, sorry. And here on my game class, what I want to do, I will create a text to display our score, and I'll call it as game.score text. So the game.score text is a new text, and now we have to say what is gonna be written in this text. So we do it with 2 apostrophes, comma, and the position of this text. So for now, I will say 0 and 0. And for now, I will leave a number 0 here. So we can see a 0 right in the middle of our game because I typed 0 inside the apostrophes and I said that the position is going to be 0, 0. But what I want to do, I will bring this score up to be at the middle of my game, but on the top. So I will change the second 0 here to be let's see, 300 maybe, to bring it up, right? I'm trying to bring it up. So when I stop and play, oh, there you go. It's pretty much there where I want it. I just want to make this score text to have a bigger font size, right? Because my font size here is pretty small, so I want it bigger. So I can do that by saying that my game.scoreText.font size is gonna be, and now I can give it a value, so let's try 50. So I'm saying that the font size of my score text inside the game is gonna be 50, right? So if I stop and play my game, oh, now it's bigger and looks better, right? So you can make it as big as you want. I will try 80. Let's see, stop, play. Yep, that also works. But I will use a smaller number here, like 70. 70 should be fine. And what I also want to do, actually I don't want to display it here in the middle. I will actually display it here on the left side. So to bring it to the left, I will also change this first 0 here because this is for the X position. And I'll bring it to the left, so it's gonna be a minus, let's see, 500 maybe. If I stop and play the game, I can bring it more. So minus 650, and I'll also bring it up a little bit, so 350. So I stop and play. Now it was too much, so 600 should be fine. Stop and play. There you go. So I found a good position there. So now we just have a 0 being displayed there because I put 0 here inside the apostrophes, right? But this is a text. I could write anything here. I could write, for example, my name, Arthur, right? So that would display Arthur there. But I don't want to display Arthur and I don't want to display 0. I want to display the exact amount of score that we have inside our game, right? So to do that, we want to keep updating this text because whenever we change our score, so for now, when I slice any fruit, I update my score, right? But my score here is not refreshing, it's not updating. So we have to keep updating our score every time. So we're gonna do this on the loop tab. So it doesn't really matter which text you put here. because we'll keep updating it every loop frame. So here I'll leave 0 because my score will start with 0 anyways. So I'll just leave 0 here. And we also have this font size. What you could also do if you wanted, you can change the color, for example. So you can say that the game.squaretext.color is gonna be, so let's say I'm gonna say that mine is gonna be red. So I can do like that, and whenever I press play, my score then is red, right? Or I could say white, but that would be quite hard to see because my background's kind of bright as well. I could say pink, I could say yellow, right? There are many colors you can choose, but for mine, I will leave black. So I will not even put this line there, but just so you can be, just so you know that you can also change the text color. So now I'm gonna go to the loop tab, because in the loop tab, I have to keep refreshing my score. I want my score to keep refreshing all the time and always updating the score to the actual score we have in the game. So that's pretty simple. I can say that my game.scoreText, so the score text of my game dot text, so the text inside my score text of my game is gonna be the same as my game.score. So I'm saying that I have a game score text, and this will have a text that is equals to my game score. So I'm just saying refresh the game score text to be always the game score, to display always the game score, right? So whenever I press play and I slice a fruit, now we have our score text working perfectly fine. So now that we have the score added to our game, I want to start adding something else now. That is animation. So today we're going to start adding animations to our game, and those animations will be played whenever we slice a fruit. So for example, if I slice an orange, I will have an orange splash. If I slice a pineapple, I will have a green splash. If I slice an eggplant, I'll have a purple splash, right? And those are animations. And this is the first time we're going to use animation, and it's a little bit different than setting a regular sprite. So we're gonna learn that today together, all right? So here, first, let's look for the animation I want, and that's a sprite. And I'm gonna start with the orange animation, okay? So here on the sprites, I will go the plus button, and I will look for my orange splash. There you go. So I found my orange splash here. It's close to the orange, right? I select my orange splash, select asset, and I'll call it orange splash as well. Orange splash, press OK, and I have my orange splash here. But you can see that whenever we try to look at one sprite, for example, the pineapple, or the orange, or the eggplant, we can see the image, right? But whenever we try to look at the animation, we can actually see something like this. So this is a sprite sheet. So a sprite sheet is basically a file with all the images that playing together one by one will run your animation. So you can see that this is the first stage of the animation, later comes this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this is the last one, right? So that's how animations are made. There are different images played in sequence, and that forms an animation, right? So we have our animation here, our sprite sheet here, right? So the first thing I will do, I will create a new class for this splash. And I will call it orange splash. Right, so orange splash, but now as it is a class, I called it with uppercase O, right? So orange splash is my class. Let's go inside this class. Actually, let's go inside the game. And what I want to do here in the game is after our code for the score text here, I will create my orange splash inside the game like this, just so we can see how it is looking so far, right? So whenever we create an orange splash without anything on it, right, that's how it looks like. Just a blue square, because it doesn't have a sprite. So let's give it a sprite. So here on the orange splash, on the start tab, I will give it a sprite, right? So I'll say that the self.sprite is a sprite from the file orange splash dot png. Right, so this has a sprite, and the sprite is a sprite from the file orange splash.png. So now when I stop and play my game, you can see that it showed me my sprite, right? If I click here, that's my sprite. So it's displaying my sprite. So I don't want to display the image. I want to display it as an animation, right? So that's a bit different. To display it as an animation, I'm gonna go here inside my orange splash again, and we have to change some stuff. Because we're not setting the sprite now. Actually, this is not a sprite. This is a sprite sheet, right? So I cannot set my sprite like this. I cannot say that my sprite is a sprite from the file orange-splash.png because this file here is actually a sprite sheet, right? So instead, what I can do is I can say that I have a sprite sheet, and this is a sprite from this file, but then now I can add some other attributes here, or some other information about this sprite sheet. For example, I have to say how many rows and how many columns does this orange splash has. So let's go here on inside the orange splash. I see that it has 1, 2, 3 rows, right? 1, 2, 3 rows, and it has 1, 2 columns. So it's 3 rows and 2 columns, right? So I'm gonna go here on my orange splash. So my sprite sheet is a sprite from this file, and it has 3 rows, comma, 2 columns. That's my sprite sheet. But you can see that if we stop and play my game, now we have again a blue square, right? That's because we haven't set this sprite sheet anywhere. We're just creating a variable to store our sprite sheet because we still have to do some more stuff. So now that we have the sprite sheet saved in a variable, we can create an animation from that sprite sheet. So basically what this code is doing is it is taking this image here, the orange splash.png, and it is slicing the image. So it takes the size of the image, and we say here that we have 3 rows and 2 columns, right? So according to the size of the image, it already slices the image on the right places we need to separate all those images, and save it inside this sprite sheet variable here. And now we can create an animation from this sprite sheet. So I can say that my splash, that is going to be my animation, right, is a new animation, right? And this new animation is going to use my sprite sheet first, comma. So now I need some more extra details. And which details do I need here? So first I need to say how fast this animation is going to play. And this is measured by FPS. So how many frames per second should we play this animation? So there's no way for us to just know, like just looking at the animation. There's no way for us to know the exact number. So we have to try different numbers here and see what works better for us. But for now, I'm just gonna leave like 30. So 30 frames per second. Okay. And now we have to do 2 more informations here. First is which image do we start to read the animation from, and which image ends the animation. So how do we know that? So we go here inside the orange splash, and we need a number that indicates the first image and a number that indicates the last image. And how can we get these numbers? Well, that's pretty simple. So we always start counting from 0. So the first image is the number 0. The top left is number 0. So I know that I want to start my animation from there. So here it'll be 30 frames per second, starting from the frame 0, or starting from the image 0, comma. And I have to say now which image ends the animation, right? So here on the orange splash, let's see. So I start from 0. I'm gonna count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is my last animation's image, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is the number that I'm gonna use there. I'm gonna go to my orange splash and I'm gonna use 5 here. All right. So here we don't need those spaces. Actually, I just did that because, I don't know, I think it's easier to see, but we don't really need those. So for now, if I stop and play my game, you can see that it still hasn't happened anything yet, right? Because we first get the sprite sheet, then we get the splash, that is an animation, right? So we get an animation, and now the last thing we have to do is we have to set underscore animation, and we're gonna set the animation in ourselves, so orange splash, right? And we're gonna set the animation splash. So the set animation is expecting some information. It expects who are you applying this animation to, so I'm applying it to myself, and which animation you're applying. So I'm applying the splash animation that I just created, right? And I created the splash animation with the sprite sheet that I just got here from the image, right? So now, whenever I stop and play my game, you can see that our animation plays in the middle of our game, right? Which is pretty cool. So you can observe some details from this animation. First, it is too small. So what I'm gonna do is here inside my orange splash, I'm gonna increase its scale X and scale Y to make this animation bigger, right? So I can say that self.scale X is gonna be 2, and self.scale Y is also gonna be 2. So I'm making my image double of the size, right? So now whenever I stop and play my game, I have a bigger animation there. All right, that's better. Next thing I want to fix is I think this animation is playing too fast. So I want to slow down this animation, and we can do that by changing this 30 here, that is the frames per second, how fast this animation is gonna play. So if I want it to play slower, I'm gonna decrease this number. So 10 instead of 30. Let's see how that looks like. I think that's too slow now, so I'm gonna increase a little bit. Let's try 15. Let's try 20 maybe. Yeah, I think 20 is good enough. So the last thing now is that our animation is looping. It never stops playing, right? So that's because our object never gets destroyed. So while our object is inside the game, it will keep playing the animation. So what we want to do, we want to create a timer that will destroy this object after, let's say, I don't know, half a second or a quarter of a second, but it has to destroy my object only when the animation finishes playing, right? I cannot destroy my object once it is in the second image here. I want to destroy my object after it has played the last image, right? So we have to create a timer that will wait for that frame, for that image. So here at the end of this object, I'm gonna create a timer. So I can say that self.timer is gonna be, and for now I'm gonna start with 30, that is half a second, right? But I'm pretty sure that we have to change this number later, but 30 for now should be fine. Okay, and I'm gonna go to my loop tab, and I'm gonna do all those timer stuff again. So I have to keep reducing my timer, so self.timer is gonna be self.timer minus 1, right? We've done this before. And if self.timer is equals 0, so if my timer reaches 0, or if my timer is over, what I want to do, I want to destroy this object. So I can say destroy self. All right, so now if we press stop and play, you can see that my object plays a couple times and then it gets destroyed, right? So you can see that my object has time to play once, my animation has time to play once, start playing the second time, and once it finishes the second animation, it then gets destroyed. So that means that my timer, my object is taking too long to get destroyed. So I'm gonna reduce my timer here from 30 to 20. Let's try. Now you can see that it plays once and then it starts playing the second time, and then it gets destroyed. So here, if we look at the image, if we look to the animation, it plays once, so it plays all the 5 images, but then later it gets destroyed when it's around this image here. So it plays all the 6 images, go back to play the first one again, and then when it's around here, it gets destroyed. So I still have to destroy my orange splash faster. So I'm gonna decrease this value a little bit more. I'm gonna say 15 here. And let's see, that looks quite better for me, but I think it's still trying to start the second time. So instead of 15, I'm just gonna leave here 13, and that should be good enough. Yeah, I think that's great for me. So my animation now plays just once and disappears. And that's perfect. That's how I want my animation to be. So now the last thing we have to do is we have to create this animation on the right time, right? Just when we slice the orange. I'm also gonna use it for the banana. I think they're quite similar color. So I'm gonna use it for both, but we're gonna do it on the next video. So for now, just save your game and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.